let's get straight to it. Caleb, who did we have as our number 5 team?
This is a team I personally could not wait to get to. I even have my Jason Tatum shirt on, so that should give you a hint of who it is. It is the Boston Celtics.
Boo, you're a homer.
Whatever. Amir really likes the Celtics this year. He was telling me, he said, I really think that they can win it all. Okay, he never said that. But when you look at what they did, upgraded from Brad Wanamaker, brought in Jeff Teague, lost Enes Kanter. We know how I feel about him. Brought in Tristan Thompson. Drafted questionably, but in the first preseason game, they looked fine. I mean, didn't look anything major, but I think the most important thing they added this offseason was via the sign and trade with Charlotte, where they brought in that $28.5 million traded player exception. Yeah, I mean, you only lost 3 players, brought in those guys. I really am excited to see how they all mesh. What I told a lot of Celtics fans was it's nice that this is like the first year of recent memory where our offseason acquisitions don't have to come in and play like superstars because, you know what I mean? Like, think about it. Over the years, we had Al Horford, Gordon Hayward, Kemba Walker. Those guys all had to come in and play like all-stars for, you know what I mean? But now with Jeff Teague and Tristan Thompson, they just have to play good roles. They play within their role. We could do really well. Contingent on Tatum, Jalen taking another leap, Kemba staying healthy, but I'm excited about it. Amir, what do you think about the Celtics offseason?
Honestly, I actually think the Celtics had a good offseason. They could have done better in some aspects. Obviously, you look at them and you're like, well, at the point guard position, it is a little bit weak. And they did get Jeff Teague. I'm excited to see what he does off the bench. He's had some trouble as a starter, but honestly, putting him off the bench, I think that'll help him a lot because that puts a lot of pressure off of him. Kemba, you just really got to hope he's healthy. Caleb talked about it. You mentioned that Kemba has been hurt pretty much all of last year and how he got hurt in preseason last year. So he hasn't been healthy pretty much the entire season. I want to see how he does this year because he didn't have a really good year last year with the Celtics. I thought he was going to be a lot better. I thought he had a lot to prove. I mean, with Charlotte, it's just like a lot of good players on bad teams end up doing not so well when they end up on those good teams, right? And Kemba, I didn't think was going to be one of those guys. I thought, hey, you know, he's a talented player, and I think when you put him in the right spot and you put him in a good team, I think he was going to succeed. He didn't have that last year. Caleb, maybe you can expand more on what really was going on with him.
He had his moments, but I think at times he was so passive with wanting Tatum and Jalen to develop. Like, if you listen to some of his interviews after games, he would just completely praise those guys. And he would never, like, it seems like he was always scared to go in and be the guy, even though he's like, he is the leader on the team. He's a veteran. He has the most experience. So you need that guy to step up. He just doesn't at times. And I really like to see him do that. Now, there were games last year where he was putting up 30, 35, and it was like, okay, this is what we need from him. The bubble was not good, but again, he was not healthy in that, and he came back and was playing hurt, which I have mixed feelings about releasing that stuff after the fact. You know what I mean? Like, after a guy plays bad, you're like, well, he was injured. Seems kind of like a cop-out. Now, I do think he was injured, but I don't know. I really want to see how he plays this year. I think this year is a really important year for him. It's year 2 of that 4-year deal. Very important year.
Also, as a non-Celtics fan, I would say that Gordon Hayward is a little bit of the same, right? When you guys got him, I was like, all right, that might be that piece that might get you guys to the championship. He got hurt his first year. We talked about that on our other podcast of Celtics Heavy Talk, and we talked about how, of course, Gordon Hayward was hurt, so he wasn't really able to show himself with the Celtics, right? Like, he wasn't able to prove what he did with Utah in Boston because he just wasn't healthy. And when I saw him play personally as an outsider with no bias, I didn't think you guys played well with him. I thought you guys played much better without him. Now, there were games where Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown were not really stepping up well, and Gordon Hayward would fill that role, and that's the type of guy he is. But I don't think he fit well with you guys. I just didn't see the fit working out, especially post-injury. We don't know what could have happened before, but that's just what I really saw of it.
I think of everything mixed in with, like, I don't think they expected Tatum and Jalen to be this good this fast. You know what I mean? Like, I have mixed things about Jaylen Brown, but, like, he's way better than what people were giving him credit for pre-draft and everything. I don't think they expected that. And then you kind of ran into a thing where you're paying one guy $34 million and these 2 other guys are on rookie contracts. It's like, you know what I mean? You kind of got to get your money's worth with him. Kind of force-fed him the ball. Last year in the bubble before Hayward hurt his ankle, Jalen was getting a little bit upset because he wasn't getting touches, wasn't getting the ball in his hands. And I think that goes back to, well, you know what I mean? Hayward's on the court, kind of like a de facto playmaker because he's decent in that role. But I definitely want Jalen to get the ball in his hands more, and I think this year is a good year for him to take that leap. Will he do it playmaking-wise? I'm not sure. But I'm excited to see how they look with expanded roles. I just think that this offseason, yeah, we lost some stuff, but I feel like his entire career in Boston, you were always wondering, like, well, when Hayward's healthy, we're going to be good, but, like, he was never healthy. So you can never really bank on that, and it's not our problem anymore. He already broke his pinky in Charlotte. I know that's a minor injury, but it just adds on. You know what I mean? It just adds on to everything that it was. And somebody brought up, none of the injuries are the same. They're always different parts of his body: hand, pinky, ankle, knee, thigh. Like, it's never the same stuff, and that's what's scary to me. Because if it was like one knee, you can kind of construct like a game plan with it, kind of like what they're doing with Kemba. But it was too hard with Hayward. It was too hard.
Yeah, I agree. You guys got away with it, and losing him wasn't a big deal for you guys. So I don't think that'll affect you guys too much in the long term. You look at the other guys on the roster, and I kind of want to ask you, for example, a guy like Marcus Smart, right? He has fit well with that roster. I feel like Brad Stevens really enjoys having him, and Celtics fans really like having him on their team. Now, Marcus Smart, when you compare him to other shooting guards, the numbers don't scream out at you, of course, because he's not really a numbers guy. He's more of a defender. He does all the stuff that don't show up on the stat sheet, right? And you just tell me, Marcus Smart, do you see him as a long-term fit to potentially win a championship? Or do you think that eventually the Celtics will have to trade him to really get somebody else long-term?
I think his play style, like, I think championship teams, you kind of need that glue guy off the bench. But here's the thing. He's starting to outstep his role. I think he attempted his highest career three-pointers last year significantly. And he's not really that good of a three-point shooter. He has improved. But it's starting to get to that point where, like, you kind of worry, like, when is he going to get cold again? And will he know to stop shooting? You know what I mean? And it's like, once you kind of step out of that role that everyone praised him for, right? Like this glue guy, all defensive first team guy. He's starting to step out of that role, handle the ball more. He's trying to be more of a playmaker. I argued early on in his career he was an underrated playmaker, and I felt like he was. And then last year he had the ball in his hands so much that he was forcing a lot, specifically in the bubble. He would turn over the ball like the worst times, and it sucks. But it's like with him and his contract, it's a decent contract. I don't think they should trade him out, but whenever he's about to get paid again, I want to know what his market value is, because you could run into some stuff extending him, giving him long-term money. You know what I mean? Because Tatum and Jalen, you're going to want to surround those guys with talent. Kemba's contract is horrific. We know this, but it's really hard to tell. I think Marcus Smart should be there long-term. I think Kemba's the guy they should, because that money is that's a huge amount of money to be committed to one player, and he's your third best player. That's not good.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. You look at a guy like Kemba, and that injury history is really hurting the Celtics, especially given the fact that they have needed a good point guard for a while. Ever since they've lost Isaiah, they haven't had anyone to fill that role. So, again, the rest of that roster, obviously Jason Tatum, he got the max this year, along with Tristan Thompson. He got a contract this year, and I thought that was a really good pickup for you guys. I really like Tristan Thompson for you guys. I talked about that earlier. Great pickup for the Celtics. Think he's a super underrated guy. And, yeah, people overrated him and didn't like him because of his last contract, but I think now he's going to fit in really well.
On this contract he's coming in with, I'm excited for it.
Exactly. You guys got him for super cheap. So let's get to our first question on our buy or sell. First up.
I think there's a contagiousness to that that's really important. And so he's got to be himself. You know, obviously, John, we have a lot of room we have to improve. You know, we're going to be a lot better at the end than we are at the beginning, as you could see tonight. But if he doesn't play that way and we don't play that way, we're in trouble.
There's Brad Stevens right there for you. Caleb's favorite coach that is completely overrated. Kidding. But that's Caleb's coach right there. Caleb, my question to you, no bias, buy or sell. The Celtics have a championship roster this year.
I'm going to sell for now. This year is the first year of Tatum being the clear number one. Last year, they were kind of thinking Kemba's going to ease him into it. But this year, undoubtedly heading in, it's Tatum's team, right? Jalen's their second best. He's only 24. Tatum's 22. They're young. And Kemba needs to be healthy. But even that, I don't think they can get over Giannis in Milwaukee. Like we said with Brooklyn and KD and them, if they're healthy, I don't think they can. The only reason we have Boston over Brooklyn is because their two stars have the injury concerns. But there's other teams in the East, too, that can take them out. The West are not better than a decent amount of teams in the West. I'd say the top 4 or 5 teams are not better than. They're a young team, and it comes down to basically if Tatum and Jalen can take that next leap. And if they do, sure. But as of right now, I'm saying sell.
I agree with you. I'm going sell as well. A lot of Celtics fans talk about that leap, and to me, I just don't see what other leap there really is. Jason Tatum, obviously, he's going to get better, but the leap is really just going to be growth, and same with Jaylen Brown. Having growth is what is kind of mandatory at this point for both of them, and it's mandatory for the entire team because how they finished off last year was not how they want to finish off in the future. And, of course, Celtics know that.
Everybody, Celtics fans included, everybody was giving them – they were like, oh, they're going to get by Miami easy. A lot of people thought that Toronto and Boston, that was the Eastern Conference Finals matchup. Like, that was what everybody was hyping up. Didn't happen like that. And it's just whenever you end a season like that where you're like the heavy favorite, people are like, oh, it's easy. That's whenever you start to run into a wall. You know what I mean? Like, you can't reach that level again for a couple seasons. And I think I wouldn't be shocked to see second-round exits. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. Not only with the fact of how they lost, but like I said, the two leaders are young. They're younger than 25. It's going to be a while, I think.
It is going to be a few years at the very least to me. I completely agree with you. Second up, let's go to Kemba Walker.
Release said you met with multiple doctors. I was just kind of curious, how many people did you end up having to meet with, and what was kind of the goal of all those conversations?
I met with a few. I met with about 2, to tell you the truth. And the goal was to just kind of get to the bottom of things for the most part. Just pretty much see, figure out what would help me, get back to, who I am as a player. So, yeah.
And with the is the hope now that with these was the consensus from everybody that getting this injection and doing these strengthening exercises with the knee, that was the best course of action to try to get you back to that point? Yep.
That's what we decided was best. Just decided not to rush back and, take my time and, just get healthy. I've had a pretty long run. Haven't had much of a break since I've signed here. So I think it'd be nice for me, to tell you the truth.
There's Kemba Walker. Caleb, that's your starting point guard right there. But I want to ask you, Kemba Walker will be the Celtics starting point guard past the trade deadline this year. Buy or sell?
I'm going to buy because I don't know if a team's going to take on his contract, to be honest with you. But this is my main argument I had with the Kemba signing as soon as we signed him. I said, is that really a smart move financially? Considering age, he did have injury history. I questioned it. And I thought maybe Danny Ainge rushed into signing a big-name free agent because of the way Kyrie Irving was leaving. And truthfully, looking back, probably shouldn't have signed Kemba. I thought Malcolm Brogdon was a great value free agent. We're not going to get into who's better between Brogdon and Kemba, but I just feel like Kemba wasn't the right move to begin with, but now it's like you're stuck with him. So I think past this trade deadline, he'll be there. Maybe next offseason they start to shop him, but I mean, they started shopping him this offseason too, don't forget. Like, they were calling around.
Let me ask you this.
Seeing his value.
Let me ask you this. You said that you pretty much think Malcolm Brogdon is better than Kemba, right? Yes or no?
For the value, yes. For the contract he got.
Let me reword that. You pretty much think that Malcolm Brogdon would have fit better than Kemba Walker on the Celtics. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Here's my question to you. Do you think Malcolm Brogdon is the difference between the Celtics winning a championship or not?
No, but I think it opens up more possibility for the roster. There's more money freed up for other signings and stuff. Maybe you find something somewhere else. I don't think Kemba was the right move. Now, when healthy, we know Kemba's a pretty fun scorer, but now it's like Tatum and Jalen are your scorers now. You don't need Kemba to be that guy anymore. And it's like the role you need Kemba to be, I think Brogdon might have been able to play better. I know that's going to get me executed and stuff on Twitter, but like, it's the financial aspect of it all with how the extensions for the Jays were coming up. And it just seemed like he rushed into that deal. But I do think he's going to have to be the starting point guard the rest of this year. We'll see about next year.
I'm going to sell, actually. I'm going to sell because I think there's no chance that Sleepy Danny doesn't do something. You know how he is. He likes to trade all of his players. So he
does do roster overhauls fast. I think 3 years into Marcus Smart's career, he was the longest tenured Celtic.
And you told me about the article about how Celtics players feel like they're pretty much pawns because they know they're all going to be traded at some point. They don't feel like actual players. So I agree with you.
But at a certain point, Danny Ainge is going to have to swallow his pride and just say, you know what? I can't be shipping players out of here like this because it's starting to leave a negative effect on players around the league. We'll see to the extent of what it does, but eventually he's going to have to just nut up and pay what he gave somebody. You know what I mean?
True that. Last one, let's go to Tristan Thompson.
Yeah, no, definitely physicality and toughness. I think, Smart was a bulldog, and he's done a great job, since he's come here day one, not backing down from anyone. And I think he's done that awesome at the guard position. I think for me now at the big position, bringing that same energy and, playing against you guys seen or saw me enough to see how I play, and I'm going to play the exact same way. When I was in a Cleveland Cavalier jersey playing you guys in the playoffs or in the regular season, I'm going to bring that same greatness and toughness. And, you saw in the Miami series, their bigs are playing at a high level and playing well. So for me, it's to come in there and, try to slow those guys down and make it tough for them. And, like Big Perk would say, lay that wood.
There's new big man, Tristan Thompson, excited to be a Celtic. Caleb, my question to you, Tristan Thompson is the big man that the Celtics were missing. Buy or sell?
I'm going to buy because it's been so long since we had a rebounder. A good rebounder that got 10 rebounds per game. Enes Kanter could have been that if he played any sort of defense, but he didn't, and you couldn't have him on the court.
Leave him alone, goddammit.
I'm just saying the truth, gosh darn it.
He's gone. Leave him alone. He's dead.
He's not dead. He's in Portland. He might as well be. But listen, it's been, I think it was 13 years. I could be off on this number, but it's been like 13-something years since the Celtics had a 10 rebound per game guy. They got that with Tristan Thompson. I feel like with his defense, rebounding, I feel like he can be out on the court. And we'll have to see how it all fits. He's not going to play for probably the first couple games of the regular season, which, again, Celtics luck with injuries. It's just inevitable at this point. But I do think his contract, cheap, could be the Celtics center that we were missing. But at the same time, what are we really missing? I think second round is our max this year. So we'll have to see. I don't know. I'm going to buy just because I feel like statistically he can fill a lot of holes that we had.
I'm going to buy as well. You guys know how I feel about Tristan Thompson. I don't need to speak too much on this. I think he's going to be a good fit for the Celtics. Obviously, Caleb knows better. He's been watching the Celtics for a while. I like Tice. I think he's a really good center, but I don't think he's a starter. Putting Tristan there allows them both to kind of interchange, and whoever's stepping up and whoever's playing better can be in that position. Helps them out a lot. I like the signing.